Welcome to the Cornbread Kool-Aid Podcast. Here we go again with the Packers. My name is Demetrius. Shout out to the super producer extraordinaire, Mike Ward, always. So we are here today talk about week 2 of the 2021 season at Lambeau. Never my favorite place to go. The Gridiron Heroes went up for Monday Night Football. And the final was 35-17 Packers. There's a lot to unpack, a lot to talk about. I think that it's important to start with remember where we are, right? Right. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I want to do the whole thing, but I'm not going to do the whole thing. So this is what we are. This is where we are. And all of this depends on what kind of fan you are, what kind of person you are, maybe. But it really just how you choose to take this. And there's everyone across the spectrum. I reached out to a number of people yesterday to sort of get the vibe. What are you thinking? And they were consistent with who they are and predictable. My brother said the things that my brother Kenny normally would say. And throughout the game, he stayed true to who he is. My friend Art gave me his assessment, very thoughtful, very thorough, very accurate, as did a couple of my cousins. So between Kenny and Art and Daryl and Chuck, everybody was kind of on the same page. You know, there was a degree of, I don't know. I feel like what generally happens is going to happen again. I'm not a SOL guy. I don't get down with same old Lions. I don't respect same old Lions. I generally bash that. I'm going to try to work on that, though, because people can feel what they want. And they can think what they want. But when I look at games, I don't see a pattern, right? The whole idea of same old Lions would be that it's always the same thing. And maybe it's me. Maybe it's cornbread and Kool-Aid. I don't know. I see them. I see everything uniquely different. And I see every loss kind of comes with its own different special twist. I see every regime that fails differently. And so sometimes it's simple. I think my cousin Daryl was the one who just said, look, they're better. They have better players. And so it's all of those things. And so today I decided, how do you do this? Is there anything really to break down? And without coming back consistently with, we're going to get there, which is the definition of cornbread and Kool-Aid is there's something positive to take from a 35-17 loss. Because there is. I laugh at myself. That's who I am. That's what I do. You can go to Sports Talk Radio and get all of the dumbass Dans and the forwards have to sell the team, SOL, they suck. We know that. But what I'm going to try and do today is talk about like why, right? There's different kinds of bad. There's different kinds of suck. And if you understand where your team is, why they lose games, my hope is that it will help you navigate what might be a pretty painful season, what might otherwise be a pain. It's not going to be painful for me. Normally a beat down at Lambeau would hurt. That didn't hurt, right? There were parts of it that bothered me. But 2 disclaimers. One, not doing social media. I looked and it's just the knuckleheads. And I don't want this podcast to just be me railing on knucklehead fans. That's not what it should be. I want to talk about the game. I want to talk about the team. I want to talk about this game. I want to talk about maybe next week, this season, and the future. I'm going to do a lot more talking about next year and 2 years from now throughout this season than in any other past podcast, because I have just decided that's where I am. I am looking for certain things. And sadly, it's not wins and losses. It's just, we have to be smarter than that. It doesn't matter that they lost this game. The score doesn't matter. Like, there is a difference fundamentally in losing and getting beaten. And there are 3 options. Sometimes you lose a game. You just don't play well. And in this league, the gap is not wide enough that any team, don't care who you are, can come and play a C- D+ game, because that other team, no matter no matter the talent gap. If that team plays an A minus game, they'll beat you. They'll beat you. That's why this league is phenomenal. But at the same time, it's why good teams are good teams. So I think that what happens is we're just not a good team right now. And if you're going to live and die with every loss this year, it's going to be a long year for you. And there are guys on the radio who'll tell you how to feel about every single game, every single loss, every play. Hopefully, if you listen to this podcast, hopefully you like it. Hopefully you keep listening. Hopefully you tell your friends and give me review and ratings. But even if you don't, hopefully you get who I am and where I'm coming from, because this is how it's always going to be. And like I said, I'm not beholden to anyone. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a broadcaster. I'm just a dude that loves this team, and I love to talk about sports in Detroit. And I figure out how to do a podcast, and that's it. It's not anything more than that. So hopefully you enjoy it. But I want to try and at least give a different perspective, a perspective you won't get on the radio every afternoon or from the four letter who doesn't give a damn about anything Detroit. And I got my own set of personal issues with that network and people on that network that I have to manage. But I'm going to digress for a minute. I am not happy with a particular journalist on that network who yesterday said he would predict a biblical beatdown, right? Whatever that was last night, it wasn't a biblical beatdown. I felt like, particularly in the first half, the team showed well, the team represented well, and they lost / got beat because of talent. And I'm going to get into that. So sometimes you lose when you don't play well. Sometimes you get beat. Other teams just better. And in 10 games, they're going to win 8 or 9 of them because they're just better. And sometimes there's a combination. And what I felt like happened in Green Bay was a combination, right? But we have to start from the framework. Where the Lions are now is, imagine you're building a house from scratch. You bought some land. Now you got to dig and excavate, and you're building a house. We are at the foundation. Like, we're putting in those basement pillars and all the things at the bottom of this house. So if you can't do a showing and have people come over and see your house when you're just building the foundation. You can't have a dinner party when you're still building the foundation. That's the analogy I want to use, and I'm going to keep using. We're just building this house. Now, there's still a lot of work to do. There's still opportunities to do things wrong, but there are opportunities to do things right. And so if you understand and appreciate that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, Glenn, Lynn, Brunell, Antoine Randall L., Deuce Staley, the entire group, they're building a house from scratch because Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn left nothing. So they just raised the entire joint and they dug a hole and they're starting to build this house now. So if you think of it that way, it might be better, right? We're building a house and we're at scratch. You got to get the foundation part right. For me, what the foundation part is about culture. It's about a way of doing things. That's what they're trying to do. So what's going to happen this year, in my opinion, you're going to see flashes. You go, wow, they might have something. You're almost never going to see it consistently. Sadly, I don't know that we're going to see a complete 60-minute game of this team playing their best football because they're not good enough. And that's how talent works. Talent's not about SOL. There's no such thing as SOL. You know, it just doesn't exist. I'm not going to do that again. The exercise right now is to build a culture, right? A way of doing things. And it'll be bumpy and sometimes it'll be really ugly. It just will. And that's okay. Well, it might not be. For some people, it's not. If you turn on your radio station, it's not, and that's fine. But for me, the reality was they played an A to A minus game for 30 minutes. And then they played a D plus game for 30 minutes. Problem is their opponent played around an A minus B plus game the entire game. And that's the best way to put it. When you think about it, there were 2 distinctly different games. They were unique and different. That's why I don't do SOL. I don't know that I remember a game where they played so well in the first half. And you really can't say that about the defense, I guess. So I shouldn't say A plus because the defense, but they were just playing a better team. But it was a tale of 2 different teams on the Lions side of the ball. Right? maybe just the offense. So maybe I'm just focusing on that. But there were two different games in the first half and the second half. There were two different kinds of weather, right? In the first half, I think it was pretty dry and clean. Second half, they got a lot of rain. And we can act like it didn't play a role, but I know at least 3 plays where it did. Right. More importantly, it was a tale of 2 quarterbacks. And I'm not talking about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers did what was statistically predictable that Aaron Rodgers would do after an embarrassing Packer loss. He would come out and play a really strong, solid game. I wasn't surprised. I don't think anyone should have been surprised that Aaron Rodgers would come out and play well, because he did. So the tale of the 2 quarterbacks I'm talking about is first half Jared Goff versus second half Jared Goff. Yeah, this is the number one priority. Quietly, we know there's a talent deficiency. We know they need pieces. Everybody knows that. They will be the first ones to tell you, they being Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, others in the organization. They know that. What they have to find out, and I don't know that you can spend 2 seasons figuring this out, is what is Jared Goff? Who is he? The guy that went 13 for 16 in the first half and made almost exclusively good decisions? 2 of his 3 incompletions were late deep balls. One that Cephas almost made a circus catch on. The other went through Khalif Raymond's hands. He was near flawless. And there are people go, he was doing check down Charlie. Yep. Get used to that. That is part of who he is. And the difference I will say, and this is all due respect to Jared Goff, because I'm a Jared Goff guy. I think we'll see more first half Jared Goff than second half Jared Goff. He is not Matthew Stafford. And that's not my gratuitous opportunity to mention Matthew Stafford on every podcast. I do that. That's not it. Matthew Stafford could try things because Matthew Stafford knew what was in his right shoulder. He knew he had the talent and the arm to do certain things, so he would be willing to try it. Sometimes that came back to bite him. More often than not, it did not bite him. It was successful. But Matthew Stafford came into every game knowing, I have one of the best arms in this league, so I can try stuff. Jared Goff doesn't lack confidence. That's not what I'm saying. But he knows what he can do. And when you know what you can do, you often recognize what you can't do. So he's not trying things he can't. And whether or not you like looking at it, whether or not it's fun to watch, that's what you want. You want someone who understands who he is and what he can do. And so you don't want him trying to do things he can't do. That is a positive. Oftentimes, what that is, when you're playing a defense that's good, or your team isn't executing that well, you can't do a lot of things. But the first half of the Packer game, he was really smart with the football. I always talk about quarterback play in 2 ways: good decisions or bad decisions, and then good or bad throws. It's the decision and the throw. And we'll touch on both of those as we talk more about Goff's play. But if he's the guy that played in the first half 90% of the time, he's the quarterback of this football team 4 years from now. If he plays like he played the second half more often than not, then we got to draft a quarterback next year. And then Goff still gets to be the quarterback while this guy learns. That question wasn't answered last night. For some, it was. There are people who ignore the first half and say he's the guy in the second half. There are people on the other end, super cornbread eaters, not quite me, who will say it was raining and the ball was slipping, and they will excuse the fumble, they'll excuse the drop, they'll excuse a number of things. I don't know. I'm a creature of data. We have 15 more chances to look at this guy and see. And so after that, instead of taking 2 data points, when I would say he was okay to good last week, he was great for a half this week and atrocious for a half this week. I don't know how to make a decision based on those 3 data points. I want more data. And that's just where I am, because I don't care how many games they win or lose this year. It doesn't matter to me, right? In a prediction, just because we had to do it, I didn't predict them to win the Packer game. I had them 0-3. And Baltimore's coming to town next week. And I'm not going to be surprised or disappointed or hurt if they lose that game. That's not what this season's about. The sooner you accept that we're building a foundation now, and that's where we are, the easier this gets for you, right? So let's start with the negatives because there's a lot of them. And I mean, cornbread and Kool-Aid doesn't mean I can't see the negatives. I see them, right? I will generally explain them away if I can. I tend to focus more on the positives, but I just did all of that to say where I am, in case you are someone who listens to this podcast and you're thinking, what's wrong with this guy? I am someone who is baselined at they're building something. So I'm not looking for the same things. I'm looking for development. I'm looking for play calling. I wasn't thrilled with Aaron Glenn with some of his defensive play calls. He put young, inexperienced corners out on an island in man coverage against Devontae Adams or against Tanyan or against Aaron Rodgers at the end of the day, and they paid for it. So the coaches aren't going to always nail it. I could talk about the Dan Campbell time management at the end of the first half. I don't completely understand that. I feel like there might have been a better way to handle that. Yeah, I think, you use the timeouts. At minimum, use one of them quickly to save you some time because an incomplete pass could have stopped the clock. You could have gotten out of bounds. I think if I'm not mistaken, there were 2 consecutive plays where they just let 30 seconds run off the clock. So I think they literally gave away like a minute of playing time that didn't make sense to me at the time. It's mitigated to a degree by the fact that they got a field goal. And at that point, they're up at halftime. And you're thinking, okay, they've played well and they're up at halftime. In retrospect, you might have left 4 points out there. You might have left 4 points. And if that's the worst thing I can say about Dan Campbell from the game, okay. Okay. I didn't see his comments about it. But as a fan watching it, I wonder, why is he not stopping the clock? He's got 3 of them. So there are things, but the negatives will jump right in. It's got to be in no particular order, because a real dumbass Dan would probably start with Goff because that's just the easy thing to do. I'm starting with the secondary because it's a problem. I kept hearing the broadcast team say they're without their best corner, Jeff Okudah. And I thought to myself, that's a statement in and of itself, that the national perspective was that Jeff Okudah was the best corner, is a statement about the talent at that position. Now, Melvin Fonwu was playing well in camp by all accounts. And when he went down, now you're really looking at, I don't know that they were that talented anyway at full strength. For sure they were young. Even if they were talented, they were young. Now, with both of those guys out, you got guys named Price and Parker playing with Oruwariye, who I want to like Amani Oruwariye. I do. I want to like him. I felt like he showed better maybe as a rookie. In 2 games this year, he is not playing well. No cornbread and Kool-Aid can help with that. He's not playing well. He seems to be out of position. He seems to be getting beat. He was giving up easy catches against San Francisco. I don't know. He's a young player. They're in a new scheme. I can make a bunch of excuses. He just looks lost to me. So I don't really know. But here's the thing. That group is really young. I'm not sure if they're talented. I'm not prepared to say that. I still think, and it would have helped if he didn't rupture his Achilles, I still think there's something in Jeff Okudah where he's going to be a talented NFL corner at some point. They're young. They're young back there. Harris, Walker, Okudah when he was healthy, Melvin Fonwu, Oruwariye, they're young and they're learning a new system. And you see these mistakes. I don't know if they're talented yet. And I keep saying the same thing. I know they're young. I know they were making last week young guy mistakes. I saw a talent deficiency this week. This is a problem. And it's on the defense side of the ball. It's a problem. The secondary is not good. Good teams with good quarterbacks and good receivers are going to do what Aaron Rodgers and Adams and Tanyan and even Aaron Jones, because that's my second thing. The second piece, linebackers. That's the worst group on the field to be. I keep going to the secondary is young. And I say that because I think they'll get better. We have really, really slow linebackers. And this is a 52-year-old man. I feel like, give me a week, I could run with Anzalone. And that's joke. That's mostly, yeah, that's a joke. But Anzalone and Collins are both super slow, and it showed last night. It showed big time. Why do we not have Barnes on the field? So I don't know. I would say to you that they see him every day in practice, and if he were better than the two slow guys, he would be on the field, and he might be. He will probably be at some point. Derek Barnes, the rookie out of Purdue, is who I'm referring to. Who, if nothing else, he's not slow. He's not slow. He's a rookie. He could overrun plays. He might not know all the formations or all the calls yet. He's not slow. That's one thing we know he's not. Collins on the Jones touchdown run where he kind of crossed over in motion. No, the motion play was just, that might have been Anzalone. They both got beat. And I think another play where he crossed the formation and caught a pass and Collins tried to chase him down and it looked bad. It looked kind of sad. He's wearing black shoes, which made him look slower. It just looked bad. Collins looked really, really slow. And these guys are professional athletes, and I'm sure they're good guys. That's not what I'm doing right now. I could care less about that. What I see is a major, major problem on my favorite football team is that they do not have speed at linebacker. There is a way teams can put on the Green Bay film, and they will see how to destroy us. Because at two levels of our secondary, we are talent deficient and slow and what can only be categorized as a steaming hot mess. Linebacker and secondary is a problem. It's a problem. And I like our front. I like some of the things we're doing up front. It doesn't matter. We can't cover receivers, can't cover tight ends, can't cover backs. So check the schedule. Any decent quarterback or receiver combination is probably going to put up great fantasy numbers when they play the Lions. And that's the slow linebacker situation bothers me. That's just like, it's like Matt Patricia still giving me the middle finger. That's what it feels like. It's Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia somewhere at a bar in suburban Boston drinking some disgusting beer, laughing. That's how it makes me feel. They will address speed at linebacker. I would bet anything that mattered to me that one of those two first rounders goes to a fast linebacker. You have to upgrade that position. You have to commit to, if they don't sign one in free agency, they might do both. You have to upgrade. The secondary could organically solve itself. If Okudah comes back healthy, he could become a better player, right? If Melanfanu just continues to grow, even Oruwariye, they could organically become better. Alex Anzalone and Jamie Collins are not going to get faster. They're just not. And that is something that Brad Holmes knows this. I'm not telling Brad Holmes something he doesn't know. This goes back to guys we have to level set. You have to know we are incredibly slow at linebacker, and we are going to, and we're young, inexperienced, and maybe talent deficient in the secondary. It's going to be a long season. Teams are going to put up points. All the more reason for my third point. We cannot live with second half Jared Goff. We cannot live with second half Jared Goff. No, hell no. Right? I, in the preseason, have said, I've been on the Goff bandwagon saying, guys, look, I know he's not number 9, and I'm the most unapologetic fan of number 9. I will always be a fan of number 9. That's not who we have. Get used to seeing the quarterback position played in a different way. I'm fine with that. And the first half of this football game, I literally said out loud, we might not have a problem at quarterback. I literally said that. And I might have jinxed it because I believe in jinxes. Because after that, at that point, I think he was 13 or 14. And I thought, 13 or 14 doesn't mean everything's downfield, doesn't even mean he's playing great. It means he's making good decisions. That's what it is. And then he proceeded to stop doing that. In the second half, I'm just going to point out, I think 4 plays maybe. The fumble, I'm not going to do the fumble because, okay, it's raining, it's wet. I get all that. That's your job. You got to grab the football. That just shouldn't happen. And that one is the anomaly. They're not going to play in the rain that much. And even when they do, he's not going to fumble the ball in the rain every time. That's the anomaly. I'm not going to waste your time. There was a 4th down play that was his worst play. It was his worst play. The interception Throwing late over the middle, inexcusable. Throwing while you're falling, inexcusable. So I'm even going to leave that later interception alone. The game was probably decided, but that was a dumb decision. The fourth down play was a bad decision. And then even though he made a bad decision, he doubled down and made a bad throw. He locked on Cephas. That's the bad decision, because on the right side, he had two open players. St. Brown was literally by himself. St. Brown ran a simple in and out, or whatever it's called, a curl or something very simple at about 6 yards. And I think they only needed 3, maybe 2. He locked on the left side on Quintez Cephas. The problem wasn't the throw. Don't blame the coordinator. It was actually a good call. For those people, he should have run. No, the call was fine. Goff locked on Cephas. If he looks to his right, Amon-Ra St. Brown is alone, and you simply make that throw. You make an easy pitch and catch, and it's first down. That, at that time, was a momentum changer. That was a huge play that if they make it, it reinforces Campbell's sort of, we're going to be an aggressive team. My biggest problem with Patricia was I called him soft. I thought the defensive scheme reeked of fear, reeked of trying not to get beat deep, and it just reeked, period. So I think that I don't, defensively, I like what they're doing up front. I think defense is a talent thing. We can't have second half Jared Goff. Nope. The drop where the ball slips out of his hand. No, if you can't grip the ball, you've already fumbled. Get a glove. Do whatever you have to do. You're a professional quarterback. You do what you have to do. I don't know if he completes that pass or makes that play. And at that point, things were unraveling. You cannot do that. He did things that were inexcusable. And that's the difference between losing and getting beat, right? The Packers literally never stopped the Lions. This sounds like cornbread. In the first half, the only drive they didn't score on was because they had 2 penalties. And they started that drive at a 1st and 25. That's inflicting on yourself. That's a false start and a holding on back-to-back plays where you were just at first down, close to midfield, if not at midfield. And then you proceed to have a false start and a holding. Now you're 1st and 25. You effectively killed that drive yourself. Because Packers have defensive problems. I hope they don't get too full of themselves with this win and think all is fine. They've got problems on the defense side. That Stokes kid's a good corner. Outside of that, you can move the ball on them. The Lions moved the ball well when they weren't killing themselves. And everything that happened in the second half was self-inflicted. This could have been a shootout. This could have been a 38-35 win or something in the 40s. If Jared Goff doesn't just – I'm trying to stop swearing. I've been told I should not drop so many F-bombs and stuff like that. I'm making no promises. Yeah, I'm making no promises, but I'm foundationally at a point where I understand what happened. The next thing is just sloppiness. What I just talked about, beating yourselves. If the other team just out-talents you, if you put up a legitimate 34, 35 points, which you should have, if Goff doesn't throw bad interceptions, fumble twice, and make some stupid decisions, there's no reason the Lions couldn't have put up 31, 34 points. And if you lose that game 35-31 or 43-35, we're talking about it differently. We're talking about a more talented team beating you, defeating you. That's a talent win. A talent loss. I'll never bitch about talent losses because I know where you are from a talent standpoint. We just talked about slow linebackers and young, inexperienced corners. I know where you are talent-wise. I'm okay with that. Dan Campbell used the term, they mentioned it a bunch of times. Oh, margin of error, right? When you are who you are, you can't, because there are penalties that drive I talked about, killed penalty was a false start and a holding. False start is a focus penalty. Holding is a talent penalty. Anzalone committed a talent penalty, a pass interference. Why? Because he wasn't good enough or fast enough to stay with the tight end. So he held him. Right? That's what you do. There are talent penalties and there are focus penalties. I won't go crazy about talent penalties. I can't. I know who they are, right? And if you're getting beat by a lineman, hold him. Don't let your quarterback get killed. Maybe the refs won't see it. I'm fine with that. So if you commit 9 penalties in a game and there are 8 talent penalties and 1 focus penalty, cool. Like the delay of games, that's focus. That might be the coaches. It might be Goff. I don't know. They got 2, maybe 3 delay of games. You got to clean that up. That's sloppiness. I put that on the coaches. Like, focus penalties are on the players. You can't false start. You can't jump, dumb stuff. But talent, holding, pass interference, those penalties never bother me. If you're getting beat, grab that dude. Don't let him dance in the end zone. Grab him, take the holding penalty. One penalty I thought was kind of weak. It was a PI call on what we call in the end zone. I thought it was a bad penalty, but that's okay. So we have to understand when you're watching these and you're seeing penalties, there's a lot of sloppiness, and you can see it on Dan Campbell's face. He's on the sidelines like, what the hell are we doing? He will clean that up. I believe they will clean that up. Some of it's coaching, some of it's inexperience, some of it's discipline. The talent stuff, that's on Brad Holmes. I trust that with 2 free agent signings, 3 good draft picks, you bring 5 really good players into the rotation next year, and then the following year you do the same thing, and that team 2 years from now is loaded. The real question goes back to the beginning. Do we have a quarterback? Which Jared Goff is it? I don't know. But when you have a team 3rd and 12, everybody in the stadium, everybody on the sidelines, everybody at home knows this is a big play in this game, and you give up a 50+? Nope. Can't do it. That's talent, though. When corners aren't turning around and locating the ball and balls bouncing off their helmet, I think that's technique. I think it's talent. And I think they can get better. I got to make it clear, the young secondary, I truly believe will get better. I think those guys are talented, and they're just young dudes learning a new system. All due respect to the Anzalone and Collins families, those guys got to go. Yeah. And I'm not usually that guy. That's for the dude on Sports Talk Radio. They got to go. They should go now. I don't see any downside to just releasing both of them. Play Derek Barnes, sign some guy in his second year who can run. I'll live with Derek Barnes getting beat or Derek Barnes holding. I'll live with that because I think Derek Barnes will get better with every play he plays. Alex Anzalone and Jamie Collins Sr. are never going to get faster than they are now. I don't understand that one. Now, maybe it's contractual. You got to pay these guys. You're not eating salaries, and you're not going to win anyway. I will buy that argument. Brad Holmes might sit me down and say, yo, we're not going to win that many games anyway. Why am I going to pay these guys to go play for somebody else? That I'll buy. I think that's fixable, by the way. I think it's easily fixable. You will draft or sign better linebackers. Now, all that being said, I think there's positives also. I'm not going out. I'm going out on the cornbread side of this thing. I'm not just going to just sit here and just talk all negative. I think there are positives. So the first thing is the national people, even the local guys, your favorite Sports Talk Radio guy will have you believe we don't have a legitimate wide receiver on the roster. Yeah, I beg to differ. I will say to you that Amon-Ra St. Brown is a really good slot receiver. I'm already there with him. But in what I can only say is the best surprise so far this season, Quintez Cephas is good. I've got enough data on Quintez Cephas. I'm already ready to say Quintez Cephas is a good receiver. Now, and for those of you who bitch for reasons that only God knows about them cutting Brashad Perriman, I will say to you, Quintez Cephas might have been the reason they let go of Brashad Perriman. They didn't know what they had in Cephas. They found out and realized we don't need Brashad Perriman. And that's a good decision. You can like it or not. That's not a reflection of, we wasted $2 million. Who cares about the $2.2 million? I mean, it's a lot of money to us, but in the grand scheme of releasing a player and eating that salary, it was nothing, particularly if you do it because, we have a second-year guy who actually is pretty good. We have something. Now, if you go and add a stud to this group via free agency or you draft somebody next year, a really, really good player, and you come in the next year and you've got this stud, whatever his name is, with Cephas and St. Brown, you got a young core of good. You can solve your receiver problem really quickly because of my second positive. TJ Hawkinson's a superstar. So you come in the next year and you got fill in the blank stud, Quintez Cephas, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and TJ Hawkinson. Your receiving problem is solved. It might already be solved. Here's the everybody knows about TJ Hawkinson and they still can't stop him. They still can't stop him. Right? It's when everybody knows you're coming and you still do what he does, that's impressive. So there are some bright spots. And I think if you got to think about the Packer game, if you thought about the 22 starting spots, the Packers had more talent at 20 spots, maybe 19. If you go man to man, go through the list, I would say tight end, center, because Frank Ragnow is a beast and he's still a beast. That might be it. Think about it. That might be it. At every other position on the field, maybe Penei Sewell. We probably had a better left tackle. So at 19 of 22 starting spots, Green Bay was better. If you do the whole checkbox thing, line everybody up on the side of the paper, and which side do you put your check mark on? My guess is 19 of the 22 spots you check on the Packer side of the ball. So remember that what this is talent for the most part, but there is a culture that needs to be built. There is sloppy play that needs to be cleaned up. There are penalties and mistakes and focus issues that need to be cleaned up. But if you go back to the beginning of this, and by the way, I like the running back room. I like Jamal Williams a lot, and I like DeAndre Swift. I like the way Anthony Lynn is using the two of them in the run and pass. Injury is the thing that could hurt there, but if those guys stay healthy, those two guys are weapons. In an offense that has Hawkinson and an emerging Quintez Cephas, they have weapons on offense. So the offense has the potential to be good if the biggest question of all is answered. All this comes back to and centers around one thing. Which Jared Goff do we have? And there's right, three options. Likelihood is we don't have first half Jared Goff. That guy played really well. I would say to you, the likelihood is he's not second half Jared Goff either. Truth is, he's somewhere in between those two guys. Where? We need him to be closer to first half Jared Goff than he was to second half Jared Goff. That's the whole thing. And it's not about wins and losses this year. Honestly, we don't care. We shouldn't care. If you care, look, hit me up on Twitter at Cornbread Pots. I'll call your name out. I'll talk about it next week. And if it's a legitimate reason why we should get excited either way, frustrated by a bad loss, excited about a great win. No, we should get excited about Quintez Cephas. You should be excited about TJ Hawkinson, about these running backs. You could be excited about first half Jared Goff if you truly believe first half Jared Goff is going to be our quarterback. I would like that. That would be great. I don't know. Because second half Jared Goff, I don't like him. Right? At halftime, I was feeling really good. It wasn't about winning the game. I saw an offense that was executing. I saw a defense that, with major talent deficiency, was sticking around in the game. And the reality is the Packers didn't make a mistake. They didn't make a mistake. But there are times when the other team's not going to make a mistake, and you can't just get rolled. Although you will. They will get rolled. When the other team plays an A-, B+ game, the talent gap is too huge. The Lions are not on a talent level with 18, 20 teams in the league. That's just it. Their schedule is made up of 17 games against 14 teams. And my guess is they were an underdog in all 17 games. Of the 14 teams they played this year, my guess is 11 or 12 of those teams are more talented. Depends on what you think of Cincinnati or Atlanta. Maybe Denver. I don't know. Now, Denver's got a good defense, though. The reality is the biggest problem is talent. It is. Because the thing about talent, and I keep talking about that, is because when you have talent, the teams that have talent, the gap between the quality of their play in the first quarter versus the quality of their play in the fourth quarter, it's not that big. Good players play well in the first quarter, and they play well in the fourth quarter when they're tired. That's why they're good. Bad players are pretty good in the first quarter because they're NFL players. Everybody's got talent. The drop-off is when they get tired. The drop-off is how you play when the weather's nice in the first 30 minutes at Lambeau and how you play when it's wet and rainy. How you play when you're on the road versus how you play at home. These are the things that are the difference between good players and bad players, and thus good teams and bad teams. And so while I think we have a few pieces, I still like our offensive line as a whole, particularly when Decker comes back. And I probably should address where I feel about that. That's a tough one for me. For me, it comes down to this. What's the better offensive line as a unit? An offensive line that has Taylor Decker at left tackle, where he's played his whole career, Penei Sewell at right, which he's learned to play over the summer, and the other three guys are the other three guys, Ragnow, Jackson, Vaitai. That's option one. Option two is Penei Sewell on the left, because you're thinking long-term, he's going to be your future left tackle, and Taylor Decker on the right, and he is 5 years in, never played right tackle. So you got a curve there. It actually might be tougher for Taylor Decker to learn to play right tackle than for Penei Sewell to go back and keep playing right tackle. Option three, the worst, in my opinion, trade Decker and Penei Sewell's your left tackle and Matt Nelson's your right tackle. I got nothing against Matt Nelson. He might be a nice guy. I don't know that. I believe option one's a better option. I just do. I think that at some point in time, if Decker moves on, leaves, I think he just signed a deal relatively recently. I think the one key to that people ignore, the dumbass Dans who are calling sports talk radio saying, you can't move Penei Sewell back to right tackle. No. The one thing you are pre-assuming, probably incorrectly, is that Penei Sewell won't be a really, really good right tackle. What if Penei Sewell can be a great right tackle and you have a really good left tackle in Decker? So you have really good and great versus great on the left and questionable on the right. I don't know. I think a lot of it is jaded. It's really hot take theater, really, hey, let's make this statement of you just got to leave Sewell at left. I coached Pop Warner and I know a great tackle when I see a great tackle. Whatever. I think if you think about that group as a unit and don't just think one day Penei Sewell is going to be an all-pro left tackle. Penei Sewell might be an all-pro right tackle. And Taylor Decker is a really good left tackle. And you got a pro bowler at center. And Jonah Jackson's pretty good at left guard. It's about the unit as a whole. What's best for the unit as a whole? And it's not like Taylor Decker, some 35-year-old bum, by the way. Taylor Decker's pretty good left tackle. Think about the unit as a whole. So I think there are positives. I think the offensive line's a positive. I think the running back room's a positive. I think quietly the wide receiver room isn't as bad as we thought. We still don't know what Tyrell Williams is going to be when he's healthy because he went right into protocol first game. If he's a take the top off the defense threat, that's just going to make St. Brown, Cephas, and most importantly, TJ Hawkinson better. I don't think the wide receiver room is as big a problem as we thought. The big question is under center, and we all knew that. I'm not telling you something you don't know, but so my take from the Packer game is, it was interesting to watch two different games in the same 3-hour span. It was interesting to watch a quarterback play his absolute best and his absolute worst in the same game. And that's the question. That's the big question this whole season. That's the big question from the Packer game. It's a question going into next week. Who is Jared Goff? And the more data points we get about Goff, it will inform the decision of where do we spend our draft capital next year. Because that's really where we are now. It is building a culture, getting guys to play hard for 60 minutes, identifying the talent gaps. We know where they are. They are at inside linebacker, potentially in the defensive backfield, and maybe at quarterback. So if you're asking me, let's say you can sign 2 good free agents, and if you think 3rd round picks are good, you got 2 1s, a 2, and a 3, so you can add 6 players next year. Now, let's not even go 6. Let's say 2nd round picks are good because it's a high second. So let's say the 2 1s and the 2 and 2 free agents. Where do you add those 5 players? Whew. Now I don't know if I answer because the quarterback's the question. But realistically, I think you always add a pass rusher if you can get one. I think you got to add more to the backfield. I think you add 2 inside linebackers preferably runs with speed, and you're probably at a quarterback. Maybe it's a receiver instead of your corner. If Okudah comes back healthy and you like Melifonwu, and you think this group can get better organically, maybe you go receiver, pass rusher, 2 linebackers, and a quarterback. Very early to do that, though. Wow, it's super early. Super early to spend next year's offseason capital. I'm going to back off that. Let's get more data points on Jared Goff. I'm not prepared to say he's the dude who, man, I can't swear. I need to swear. Describing his second half play is tough to do without dipping into the underground language. That's all I'm saying. I'm going to do my best. I made some commitments to try and dial back the bombs. But if you watch the second half of that game and you have a word that can describe Jared Goff's play that I can say on the podcast, send it to me, tweet it at Cornbread Pod. I will be glad to use it. So yeah, that's my feeling about the Packer game and generally where they are. This is going to be rough, guys. It's going to be a rough season. I will be able to stay positive. That's why the name of the podcast is what it is. I am as a person generally positive about this team. I'm super positive. And the Pistons and the Wings are getting ready to kick off camp. So we're going to start doing more podcasts about those guys. And both college football teams are 3-0. I'm going to have to dip into that at some point, certainly before the week in October when it gets real. So we're going to start looking for more pods. I think we're probably going to do some Wednesday or Thursday pods in addition to the Lions Sunday. So my overall thoughts are this. We got a lot of work to do. It's going to be a bumpy year, but baseline yourself to not care as much about wins and losses as much as you are looking for development. The development of Quintez Cephas, keep your eye on that. That's a big deal. The Sewell Decker thing is important. How they handle it, how it works out. That's a big deal. I think if Melifonwu comes back, we need Oruwariye to play better. We need Harrison Walker to get better. Guys, there's no hope at the inside linebacker. Again, all due respect to the Anzalone and Collins families. That's not going to get better. That's not going to get better anytime soon. So thanks for listening, watching. If you check it out later, that's awesome. It's going to be a long season, but we'll be here and hopefully you enjoy it. I'm going to keep trying to bring the fan perspective. You can get the other perspectives in other places. Baltimore's coming in Sunday. So look for me Sunday. And then next week, we're going to start getting into the Wings, the Pistons, the football teams, and the universities, and start doing more. So hopefully you tell your friends, you'll share it with your Facebook friends. Even if you don't like what I'm saying, I'm fine. At Cornbread Pod, I will read it. I will probably get back to you because I love talking about this team, even if it's a debate. But I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing it. Let's try again next week. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.